which is when cars just look similar by Corsica, which, you know, I guess as far as body, yeah, you know, as someone who's not like that into cars, right? When you go outside, there's a lot of car that looks very similar, very much the same, and I couldn't probably tell there's a different brand or something, right? Like, you know, car bodies are very often not that different, at least like regular civilian cheap cars, right? So I guess that makes sense. Let's check it out.
All cars look the same now. Either you've heard this expression or you're one of the people who actually believe so. And if you are, it's not really hard to see where you might be coming from. For example, I'm gonna draw a car now, see if you can work out what model it is exactly. Now imagine two headlights, one on the left and one on the right as well, both with kind of thin tails that flow towards the front fenders. Now these headlights are connected in the middle with a grille, obviously, although...
You know, I was just thinking, like, actually, the best anecdote about this is, you know, I sold my car like 2 years ago, but when I had my car, you know, it was like a very looking like other cars, right? And when I would have it on a big parking, I do have like a small brain, so sometimes I would come back, and there was a lot of time where I actually like mistook someone else's car for mine, even though it was not actually the same model, but the body type and the same color, right? Red Lucifer is what I had. That's what the salesman told me. And yeah, that's a good example, right? Like, you know, the body was so similar, even though it's a different one, that, you know, there was many times where I just got confused.
With a big fat badge in the center. And for posterity's sake, let's have another bigger grille at the bottom there, and now tell me what car this is. Yeah, exactly, it's a Toyota Auris.
Whoa.
Oh dear. It seems that these two completely different cars sure do look similar, so I guess this is definitive proof that yes, all cars are the same now. If you actually believe that, I don't like you.
I get it. I mean, it's basically, you know, oh, how do I say? It's been a while. How are you doing? It's basically, you know, like anytime you're deep enough into something, you get annoyed by people saying that. But like when you're surface level, you might be the one saying that, so I get it.
The truth is, cars have always looked a little bit alike, as is the case with, well, practically any piece of technology. You don't see tech guys going, oh man, I sure do miss the 70s because every phone looked different from each other.
Fair enough.
Sure, once in a while we're witness to something like the Subaru Legacy and Hyundai Sonata being revealed within a month of each other and looking like a game of spot the difference where every
right.
answer is no. But then you have to remind yourself what every car looked like 30 years earlier. Like this. All of them looked like this. Some rectangle headlights, amber turn signals, and a grille in between them. But that's just the 80s. We can go back even further if you wish.
It was real.
Here's four
As I explained, I'm not taking requests right now. I'm just finishing the one I didn't watch, which I guess there was one of you as well.
Completely different cars from different brands.
I might take requests at the end.
For America. You will have a hard time convincing me, at least, how all of them are completely distinct from each other and how these cars you see on the roads today are somehow exactly alike. Going back even further, we arrive at the 1930s and well, yes, here I must admit that cars looked quite diverse back in those days. Anyway, I hope you get my point that I personally don't believe that this revelation of all cars looking alike has suddenly happened recently, coinciding with the massive takeover of SUVs and crossovers. I think designs have become more diverse than ever, actually. But separate cars looking alike by happenstance is a tradition that continues on today. I mentioned the front end of the Golf earlier, but just turn it around and then write an email to Opel asking how this happened. But when we're talking about cars that resemble ones from other manufacturers, there is obviously a certain East Asian country you can't go by without mentioning.
Interesting.
That's right. Japan. After getting back on their feet after the war, Japanese manufacturers deliberately looked towards the West for styling inspiration. mainly America. Which wasn't unusual. American design was highly influential across the world at that time.
I like this type of cars.
It's just that Japanese car makers kind of
so basic and
never
slow.
stopped taking cues from other manufacturers, be it from European or American ones. Mazda wasn't shy about the fact that Porsche's 924 and 944 had been particular influences on the first and second generation RX-7s, and the original MX-5 had been designed to look like a modern interpretation of the Lotus Elan. Which is funny because the original Miata's main competitor turned out to be the Lotus Elan. Anyway, Honda has had a knack for vertical taillights since the original CR-V, which bore quite a resemblance to the Chevy Lumina APV. Following this, both the HR-V and second generation...
It's kind of like blocky back, I don't know. It doesn't look cool, I mean. Not all cars are meant to look cool, you know, sometimes like it's practicality, right? But, yeah, this just looks like this flat ass, you know. Best way to put it. Do you prefer a round ass or a flat ass? I mean... I don't know.
CR-V featured full-length rear taillights seemingly inspired by the Volvo 850, and ever since then the CR-V's taillights have quite closely followed Volvo's leading example. When the XC90 introduced a more pronounced lower section that wrapped around the hips, so to say, so did the third-gen CR-V a few years later.
I've heard anyone talk about cars like that.
Like the XC60, and so does the current one. Meanwhile, Mitsubishi deliberately designed the 1996 Galant with BMW in their minds, from the shark nose front end to the E36-like rear end, and even nearly featuring a Hofmeister kink on the rear windows. And these Japanese brands, they're still at it, bless their hearts. Toyota nicked the design of the plastic wheel arches from the Lamborghini Urus concept and slapped it on the RAV4, and science is still trying to figure out whether the rear end of the new Accord looks more like an Audi A7 or a Lincoln Aviator. Other times though, it just comes down to a happy coincidence, like the Honda Prelude and Eagle Vision looking like a Honda Prelude and an Eagle Vision. Toyota's Yaris Cross is like a contemporary version of the Citroën Ami, or the Nissan NX, which bears a contemporary version of the Citroën.
Like, you know, when I lived in the countryside in the south of France, there was some, like, you know, older farmer guy who would have cars like this, like old, not exactly this one, but yeah, very old, like Citroën cars, you know, like this, like, super small car where the guy, you know, was like usually pretty big. He felt like, you know, he was like really like boxing himself in. It was really a vibe. It was really quite the vibe.
Ami, or the Nissan NX, which bears a resemblance to the 1964 Panhard 24. Were these intentional? I highly doubt it, but they're there. And then Mitsubishi and Lada landed on the exact same front design language at the same time. Now, how did that happen?
I mean, like, I know we're talking about like similar looking cars, but even this, you know, is not where I would say like this is that similar, right? I guess there is some common design tropes or whatever, but even looking at this, it's not striking to me right away as like, man, I'm looking at the same thing. I guess, you know, the front pattern, sure, but even then, I don't know. I don't instantly think, wow, they copied each other or something. Like, this isn't that glaring, is what I feel.
Most of the time, similarities between cars can be spotted on the rear three-quarters view of the car because, I don't know, inflation? The Nissan Tiida and Opel Corsa look quite alike on account of the shape of the greenhouse, the swept-back taillights, even the location of the rear boot lid handle and bumper bars. The Peugeot 207, that lucky bastard, got off scot-free here.
I had a Peugeot 208, so I guess it was like, it looks better than this. Yeah, 208 is what I had.
Then you've got the Hyundai Sonata and Honda Accord, which kind of look similar, and the Subaru Forester and Suzuki Liana hatchback, which really look similar. Or the Bentley Continental and the Lincoln Continental, which look alike only if you just write their names down and nothing else.
I don't know what they are.
Now, this might be just me, but I see a weird similarity between the 2005 Kia Rio sedan and the later Subaru Impreza sedan. Or perhaps my mind is just clouded over by the knowledge that the Kia Rio Sport Pack existed. Yeah, your eyes are not deceiving you, and neither am I making this up. Down under, Kia offered the Rio Sport Pack as a dealer-installed option, exactly as you see on screen. No performance upgrades to speak of, however, all you got was the knowledge that you weren't driving a WRX STI.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Ford was desperately trying to claim that the Granada looked like either a Cadillac...
What looks like the newest Cadillac and is priced like the newest Volkswagen? Ford's Granada.
Or a Mercedes.
Scoop. Another remarkable achievement.
That's really like an interesting thing with old dads. Like some old dads were really not shy about just name dropping like competition and saying, you know, like straightforwardly, we are better than this because better price or something. It's interesting. I kind of wish that was still a thing. Like I can't remember last time I saw like a direct attack like that from a company, you know, saying like we are definitely better than the others because of this and this. I guess it's not the best look, but I don't know. There's something fun about it. Yeah. It's kind of like right now there's two, you know, new graphics card that came out. If like the new AMD card was basically like directly saying, you know, we are so much cheaper than Nvidia for the same performance, you know, I mean, I guess people would get mad. Twitter would get mad, but I'd like it. Because it's true.
Besides the resemblance, it's one.
And yet, somehow, it doesn't. Expensive luxury cars managing to look like cheaper ordinary cars is always just a funny thing whenever it happens. Lincoln's MKS is oddly similar to the Chevrolet Lacetti of all cars. The older Mercedes A-Class, well, that resembles the Citroen C2. I really hope I'm not the only one who sees that. Not to worry though, the current A-Class doesn't look like a Citroen, it looks like a damn Kia Forte. And then you've got the Maserati Grecale, which could easily be considered as a twin to the Ford Puma, although this duo nearly became a trio. In 2017, patent filings revealed the styling of Lotus's then upcoming SUV, just codenamed Type 132 at that point. And wouldn't you know it, it fits in perfectly. This version of the crossover never ended up being released, however. Instead, in its place, we got the Elettre, which also had its design leaked through patent filings.
Those are pretty cool looking, yeah. I like it.
Once upon a time, SsangYong had a partnership with Mercedes, which allowed SsangYong to use...
That's a freaking design. Holy shit. Now that's something different. I mean, everything so far in the video feels like I've seen it before, right? This is a different vibe. That's a very weird looking, like it's like a mini bus, I guess, but the shape of it feels so weird, yeah.
Mercedes' state-of-the-art technologies such as engines. SsangYong repaid the favor by making their sedans look like knockoff Mercedes models.
Okay. Is that repaying the favor?
Really, I could go on with examples of similarities, like the headlights of the Kia Ceed, Toyota Yaris, Ford Transit Connect, Fiat Punto Vivo, and Ford Ka Plus, for example. Oh well, there I go talking about Ford headlights again. But instead, I'm gonna finish with what I consider to be perhaps the most interesting case of two similar-looking cars in recent times. The Suzuki Ciaz and Honda City.
Yeah.
Now, these are not rebadges. They don't share any body panels.
Like the one on the right is like the tiny like shark spoiler. Not spoiler, shark fin. Like, okay. That's the one difference.
They are purebred, from the ground up competitors. And they look identical when you focus on this bit right here. The shape of the taillights, the chrome piece in between them, the indent for the license plate, even the shape of the boot lid with its protruding lip spoiler. These taillights aren't a particularly basic shape either. Time and effort clearly went into both of them by their respective design teams to sculpt them into something unique. And yet this happened, and we must all live with it. But even as this kind of messy stuff happens on occasion, that doesn't mean all cars look the same these days. The reason why you might be reminiscing of the olden days where every car was awesome and cool is because those are the only cars people have actually preserved and saved. City streets 40 years ago weren't filled with these, they were made up of these.
Yeah, obviously.
Also, I went this entire time without mentioning China.
Join the Corsica.
I don't know the name, but the one at the very bottom, my dad had one of this when I was younger. Like this shape at least.
Also, I went this entire time without mentioning China.
Join the Corsica membership program on YouTube today and receive exclusive content and the right to brag for decades to come. Tell your family,
What does
tell
it
your
have to do with
friends,
China?
and join the Corsica membership program on YouTube together to support your 57th favorite content creator. Just keep in mind, these cheap prices will last forever.
Actually, I guess what he means is like China is known for like, you know, they don't really care too much about like just fully stealing a design or stuff. Like in gaming, it's quite a big thing, right? So I guess for cars it might be the same. That would make sense. Yeah, that would make sense. Okay, interesting. I feel like, you know, for most of those, yeah, like it's a little part that looks exactly the same. But I guess when you think about it, like headlight or something, you know, there's only so many shapes that you can do that would actually look good. Then there's also the fact that, you know, they can't do the same they've already done, so that already eliminates an insane amount of shape. So when you think about it, you know, like most modern designer will probably just accidentally end up making stuff that looks very similar because there's just only so much you can do. It's already been like, you know, decades and decades of design, redesign, and you know, like there's only so much you can do. Also considering like, you know, like design that needs to be not insanely complicated for like production, etc., etc. It just makes sense that a lot of things would look the same. Okay. Alright. Good stuff. Good stuff. Here's the link. That was a pretty interesting one. I enjoyed it.